And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to host the incredible Taylor Adams, here to tell us about his red-hot new book, Hairpin Bridge, all the way from the Pacific Northwest, broadcasting live outside of Seattle on a surprisingly sunny day. Taylor, welcome. Tell us about your book.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi. So Hairpin Bridge out today. Let me grab a copy so I have it. It's about a young woman determined to prove that her twin sister's suicide was actually a murder by confronting the man she believes is responsible. And the only problem is that man is the cop who allegedly found her body under a derelict bridge way out in rural Montana. And so Lena, the protagonist, arranges a meeting with the cop there on that same bridge. And as her questions become more pointed, what she learns kind of puts her sister Cambry's final hours into focus and her own life into immediate danger. But anything away, she has a plan for that too.
Ooh, well, you hooked us good, Taylor. Are in, and let me tell y'all, I'm reading this book and it's so dang good. Oh my God, it is so well written. I am devouring every single page. I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. And I'm so excited to get the scoop from Taylor today. So I'm going to get into all the dirty deets, but first I just want to welcome everybody. Hi friends, everyone who's watching on Facebook, everyone who's watching on YouTube, everyone who's watching everywhere. We're so freaking happy you're here. If you've been here before, you know how it works. And if you're new, welcome friends. Here's how it works. I am giving you access to this featured author, my hand-picked choice, Taylor Adams, and you get to ask him anything. Ask him about his book, ask him about his writing, ask him about anything weighing on your brain, and Taylor's going to give you the inside scoop. So get those questions going in the comments. Let's see how we're doing. Leslie says, hello from Canada. Hello, Leslie. Good to have you. Caitlin says, you are awesome. Oh my gosh, Caitlin, you're awesome. Good to have you here, girl. Good to see ya. Gail saying, hi. Hey, Gail, top community member. Gail, good to have you. Anissa from South Carolina saying, hello, Sarah and Taylor. Anissa, top community member. Good to have you back, lady. Welcome. Caitlin saying, this sounds like a great book. Diana Renia, this sounds like you. Caitlin, you're reading my mind. I am loving this book. Hi, good to have you here. So Taylor, let's get straight into it. So you are writing a book about a woman. What was that like for you? How did you get in here and in here?
You know, this being my fourth book, this is the second book that I've written from a female perspective. My first two were from a male perspective, and I think I kind of had to work myself up to just like feeling confident enough to try it. Because my past No Exit was also from a female perspective. Honestly, like, I mean, my girlfriend is a really big inspiration. She's a lawyer. She's a total badass. And so a lot of the really positive traits that I end up, writing into my protagonists often, I've kind of seen them in her. And on top of that, like, I think just the kind of thrillers that I like to write, they tend to be really situational and kind of, like happening out of the blue to ordinary people. And so like gender is a huge part of it per se. Like I try to just be relatable regardless of what, the gender of the main character happens to be, because we're all just people, I guess.
I love that, Taylor. I love that. And you're so right, because regardless of gender, we all just want to be relatable and we all want to relate to your characters. So I love that perspective. Thank you. I want to welcome Yaneth. Welcome. Good to see you. Robert, welcome. Hi, everybody. Good to have you. If you have any questions for Taylor, get them going in the comments. I got a lot, so I'm going to kick off. Taylor, why'd you place this book in Montana?
So originally I had wanted to set it in Idaho because Idaho, my parents live out there. It's really pretty. I've driven out there a lot. I like the look of it. I like the climate. But Idaho wasn't quite far enough inland for like what I wanted the story to be, because Idaho isn't that far of a drive from the coast. And I really wanted it to be more of an undertaking for the main character to get there. So I was like, I should probably move it one state further. And so actually, I've never been to Montana. I researched a lot. I want to go to Montana this summer. It was really hard to go to Montana last year because I wanted to, but couldn't because of last year. But yeah, Idaho was the original inspiration before it was shifted.
Wow. Oh, that's so interesting. Why did you write Lena as a twin?
So let's see, my mom actually, she's a twin. I had always just thought twins were neat, and I know there's there's a lot of kind of differing views on there about what that connection is. And for me, I thought it was just a really interesting way to explore the structure of the story, which is half present, half past. Well, not quite half and half, but present and past, kind of a dual timeline. I thought twins were just a really interesting way to explore that, because it's kind of like as the timelines start to really accelerate together, they almost kind of feel like the same person.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Hey, Liz, good to have you. Welcome. So I am completely obsessed with twins. I'll admit it. Until I was 12, I held out hope that I was a twin and that we had just been separated at birth and someday we would reconvene. And then at the ripe old age of 12, I realized, okay, that's not going to happen. Like, it's just me. But I am fascinated by twins. And I love how you're saying that you were playing with this dual timeline, with the duality of two people who look exactly alike. And what I loved about the book, which opens with Lena driving her deceased twin sister Cambry's car to the site of where Cambry was found dead, is that she's both reflecting that, what people say about twins, which is the first thing we always say, oh my God, you guys look exactly alike. But she's also having this kind of really crazy moment where she's like, her sister was actually living out of her car because she's kind of a free spirit, and Lena's not so much of a free spirit, which I also loved how you were showing the difference, but also the similarity of two sisters. As a woman with sisters, I can relate. And you were saying, that she was not just driving her sister's car, but her sister's house, and how, sort of crazy and creepy and weird that was for her. Walk us through that moment.
Oh man. It's kind of, the whole book really is about, if I had to pick kind of one theme that sort of unites the whole book, it's really about loss, and it's about processing loss and figuring out how best to, remember somebody while kind of coping with difficult truths that you might find out. And so the whole, even though it's a really just kind of all over the place story in the multiple timelines and the multiple voices, it's really, the spine of the story is just Lena's conversation with that cop on the bridge, and everything else that happens past, future, like it all kind of serves that. So thinking of the story in a really straight line, just about somebody processing a loss that just came out of nowhere and had a lot of really unfortunate, weird circumstances to it. That kind of helped me. That was sort of I remember, like, when I was writing this story, I remember really always feeling like, okay, there's a lot of fuel here. There's like an emotional core that really gets me excited to write this. I just, have to figure it out, which is always the really hard part.
Totally. And I love that you said you described that as fuel for this story. I think that's such an interesting way of describing that, because as writers, we have to figure out ways to keep ourselves motivated, like how to keep ourselves going over what can be a very long slog. How long of a slog was it for you? How long did it take you to write this book?
Ooh, it was quite the slog.
Tell us about the slog. I need full details about the slog.
I would say about 1 to 2 years, maybe. And part of that is, I always feel like if I just worked more consistently and was just more disciplined, I could probably do it faster. But I think 1 to 1.5 years is kind of like I think that's like the gestation time for a book for me. And this one, I swear, every book that I'm working on, like I always, when I'm in it, there's always at least a few points where I'm like, I don't know if this is salvageable. I should just start something else. So I've learned to just push past that doubt. And then, oh man, yeah, it was quite a slog. I always feel like whatever book it is that I'm working on, I'm always like, this is it. This is the hardest book I've ever written. And then, then I start another book and I'm like, never mind, this was the hardest one. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of mind games with myself. And I think I have to, I've found that it really helps just to turn that part of my brain off and just focus on, hitting my word counts every day and, shutting up to myself about everything else.
Oh my God. I love that every book you're like, no, this one was the hardest. No, this one was the hardest. And I just had a vision of you being that meme, that GIF lady from the Titanic. She's like, it's been 84 years. And 84 books from now, Taylor is just like worn down with the weight of every book getting heavier and heavier. But it's so true. My first book, I was like, oh my God, holy crap, this is hard. And now I'm working on book 2. I'm 7 years into book 2 and I'm like, oh my God, this is the hardest book. And I really we'll be partners. Every day we can text the 84 year. It's been 84 years meme.
Because every book was harder than the last.
Exactly. Sharon saying hi from Minnesota. Hey, Sharon, good to have you. Thanks for tuning in from Minnesota. Top community member there. We got people from all over the United States and Canada. I'm loving this. Yay. So let me know, guys, any questions that you have for Taylor, let me know. Gail would like to know, might Taylor discuss No Exit being turned into a movie? Taylor, give us the skinny.
Yes, I think I can. I'm trying to think of, okay, what can I say without getting in trouble? It is happening. It is right now. I'm not allowed to talk about the cast, but it's in really good hands. The creative people working on it are really, they've got a great script. It is going to be really cool, and I'm so excited. There'll be more news coming eventually, but I'm very, very, very excited.
Yay! Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Caitlin's saying congratulations. Caitlin is all Gail is saying congratulations, Tara. This is so exciting. Fam, if you've read No Exit, tell us who you would cast in the comments. Let's see what everyone would envision. Taylor is not allowed to say more, but we are. So let's cast this out. Let's see what we think, guys. So Taylor, you have earned, and I always want to say, you have earned incredible praise for this book. So Riley Sager, renowned author Riley Sager, raved that this book is a shot of adrenaline straight to the heart. Propulsive and unpredictable. Hairpin Bridge will have you on the edge from the first page to the last. Incredible praise from the amazing Riley Sager there. Let's get into how you did it. How do you keep readers on the edges of our seats? How do you keep us up till 3 a.m. begging for just one more chapter, even though we're tired and we should go to bed?
I think the short answer is I rewrite the heck out of my books, and I am way, my first 5 or 6 drafts are always really awful. And, as I keep rewriting, which, the first few drafts are they always feel like a slog, but maybe about halfway through it starts to get kind of fun because, it's a matter of just solving problems and rearranging things and kind of finding the right ordering of information. And I think, the latter drafts are really fun because I've figured out where I need, these kind of, where this action beat needs to be, where I need to kind of tease at this mystery, where, this twist is going to happen. And once I've got the order of information down, I can really have fun with, polishing the writing and polishing, the details and the dialogue and the atmosphere and all the really, really fun stuff, that kind of goes on top of that skeleton. But, oh man, my early few drafts, not just first draft, second draft, third draft, woof, they're not good. and that's kind of part of it's tough, but it's also a really, every draft is a little better than what came before. And so that part is really, really encouraging. And it's just, for keeping the pacing up, it's just kind of a matter of my early drafts always feel really soggy because and I don't know if that's the right word, but just kind of mushy. Information is just not really defined, and then the order isn't defined, and there's repetitive stuff. And then just bit by bit, it's kind of like polishing something. It kind of tightens up.
Ooh, interesting. I love that. Anissa would like to know, how different is the finished book to the initial draft? So you've described your initial drafts as soggy or mushy. I'm just picturing cereal after it's sat out for too long.
Yeah,
soggy or mushy.
Oatmeal.
Mushy, ugh. And your last drafts your final draft, obviously, it earns incredible praise from Riley Sager, propulsive. So Anissa would like to know, how different are they? Give us a deeper glimpse into your process.
They can be really usually the arc of the story, just the shape of the story is more or less the same. It kind of feels like the the final draft is like what I was trying for all along, and then the first few drafts are just like my swing and a miss at it, and just usually they're really skeletal. The first few drafts are, I think the first draft of Hairpin was like barely 40,000 words, and the finished book is a little over, I think, 75,000. And I think a lot of that just comes down to I have to make sure that the story beats are all in the right place before I start really focusing on the characters and the scene setting and the atmosphere and the action and just kind of the fun stuff. So I usually end up with these really skeletal initial drafts that don't have a lot going on and probably aren't very fun to read because they're just like a blueprint for a story. And sometimes I'll just, insert description here. I'll describe this later when I know that this is important.
Wow. But how do you, and I'm asking now, how do you, if you're writing such a skeletal, which is so interesting, because I've heard there's two different types of people. There's the skeleton and then they flesh it out. And then there's the me who dumps, too many words, 2 book lengths onto the page and then has to cut it down to a skeleton. So I want to understand for you as the skeleton guy, how do you, if you're writing like, oh, fill this in later, how do you keep that going though? Like, how do you if it's that far apart, how do you keep it hanging together?
I mean, it's usually, a lot of kind of what I would call just like placeholder writing. Like it's not great writing, not great details. It's just not great dialogue. It's just there to exist on the page so I can kind of see the shape of the scene. And then, lots of times with every draft, it's like every new draft is a chance to fix that and replace that line of dialogue with something that's going to work better, or, replace that description with something that I haven't, with a word that I haven't used 18 times in the last,
Oh my God. I have favorite words too. And I am like, I need to stop using those words.
I totally one spot for my favorite words. I don't even realize like how much I'm using them until somebody points that out. And then I do a search on the document. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's 38 times.
But you're like, I've used, and it'll be some really weird word that people notice, Yes. Oh my God, that's so funny. Caitlin is saying, wow, this is such a craft. And you giving us the inside scoop of what that looks like is really showing us exactly what's involved with that craft, which I love. So how many drafts was it? Because you've told us, drafts 2 or 3 are woof. And then the final one is really taut. How many is it from start to finish?
I would say about 7 or 8. And I've noticed, the first draft is always that, because that's just all new words. That one always takes the longest. And then bit by bit, because I like to start every new draft as like a brand new Word document. And then I'll have, my old draft and then I'll have my new draft side by side. And I'll just go through and just type it up. And it sounds really tedious, and it can be, but I have a really short attention span. So it forces me to focus on every word and every sentence and just every little bit of the story.
Ooh, that is so interesting because I also have a short attention span. Who can relate? Hands up in the comments. Oh my gosh. Leslie would like to know, how do you come up with the ideas and themes of your book? Leslie, you're reading my mind. I love that. Because Taylor, this is a crazy story about twin sisters. One is found dead. Lena thinks she's murdered. She's going to get to the bottom of it. She's going to take that cop out there to the bridge. How did you come up with something like this?
Lots of times, I've got a lot of, like in my Gmail, just Gmail drafts, because that's somewhere I can access from anywhere. I'll just like jot down ideas and settings and just kind of like half-formed, chunks of a story that excite me. And then bit by bit, like I'll kind of like combine, elements and, combine this character with this setting and this situation. And eventually, like, I'll kind of reach a point where it's like, okay, I think there's a story here, and I like this enough that I could spend the next 1.5 years writing this without, losing my mind. But there's a lot of I've got a lot of really half-formed ideas, and it's just kind of an idea of just a matter of just mushing ideas together until I get like a combination that I like. And then a lot of it too is, usually it starts with a situation, and I find the characters and I find the emotional, core of it to me, because there has to be an emotional element to me to just keep me interested, because I have a really short attention span, and the story has to be about something to me to keep me, invested in it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So speaking of the emotional core, I missed a question, so I'm just scrolling back and finding that. Oh, here it is from Caitlin. She would like to know, have you experienced loss before writing? You said that loss was the core essence of this book, the emotional core of this book. So she said she wants to know, did you feel the effect of loss in real life while empathizing with the character? I hear actors have a hard time shaking their character. Oh my God, Caitlin, I love every bit of this very multifaceted, extremely interesting question. Taylor, let's get into it.
That is a really good question. The answer is kind of the reverse because, I'd had a loss in my family back in 2017 that sort of, it wasn't what inspired this book per se, but it was what what I was working through then and, honestly, still am continuing to work through now. That gave me an entry point into this story that, I don't think I would have written this book without that event happening in my life. And so I think, it's kind of in the reverse. I think this was as dark of a book as this is. I think it was really cathartic and, in a lot of ways, I think it kind of helped me. And it gave me, kind of some of the courage to, try writing about this kind of an event, which, is devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm so sorry for the loss that you had in your family in 2017. And thank you for sharing that with us because we can all relate to that, right? Because we've all had loss in our lives. We all know what that is. And so thank you for bringing that up. And Caitlin, thank you for asking that really wonderful question. In terms of empathizing, that probably gave you the pain, but also the entry point. The pain was the entry point into being able to write this.
Yeah, and certain passages of the book are written from they're kind of her first person, a blog that she wrote the day before, she went out and embarked on this mission. And, those were kind of the spots where, I feel like I was really like, that was kind of my entry point into, hopefully getting the reader to connect with what the character is going through, and what the character is going through kind of comes from a real place in some elements. So.
I love that. And what about the final part of Caitlin's question? Actors, sometimes character actors have problems leaving that character behind. Was this when you finally, after a year and a half, left the world of Lena and Cambry, was it hard to leave them? Did they stay with you in some way?
Honestly, the process of writing this was kind of a little bit cathartic in its own. So I'm happy with how the story ended up, and I'm happy to also set it down and work on something else. So I feel like it kind of, it did its thing for what I needed to do with it. And yeah, there's always such a weird like rush of emotions after finishing a book and then seeing the book out there. I think that's always the scariest part is, seeing the book out there and seeing how it does in the wild and seeing how people respond to it.
Right.
But no, I'm having a lot of fun with my next idea, and my next book isn't going to be as dark as this one. This is easily the darkest book I've ever written, Hairpin Bridge. So.
Okay, Taylor, you can't tease us like that. We're not going to take that here on. You got to give us the skinny now. What you working on next?
So my new book is also a thriller. Surprise. About a person who reads just a god awful, weird, creepy ebook that's just not good and kind of disturbing, like a horror story, and gives it a 1-star rating. And it turns out that author is a psychopath and comes after her. So I'd always thought, home invasion stories are very creepy, and I'd always wanted to find kind of the right entry point into a home invasion story. And so, a psychotic author, I thought, okay, that would be fun. And it takes a really certain personality type, I think, even to be an author sometimes. And that would be scary in a villain.
Okay. Does anyone else think that Taylor is maybe trying to warn us not to give him any 1-star reviews? I mean, I received that warning loud and clear. Anyone else? I mean, heard, right? Caitlin is saying, that's not dark at all. LOL.
Right.
Exactly. Going over to the light side. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed this. She said that was such a great answer to her previous question. So thank you. Taylor, let's get on to some of your other amazing praise because I have got to share this. So the Washington Post raved that your Stand Alone fourth thriller moves at about 150 miles per hour until its closing scene, which is still and tender. A novel that is part action flick and part affecting rumination on moral responsibility within families. What a gorgeous, and I'm just going to pop this up for a second because it's quite lengthy. We got to sit tall, Taylor. Exactly. But what a gorgeous review from the Washington Post. Your response to that?
That made my whole day, and I was really, really excited because I found out about that just a few days ago, and I was really excited. And I was excited too to see that, it's an action story very much. I mean, there's a lot of action in it, like, everything else I seem to write because I have a very short attention span. But it's also it's really nice to write something that is, I really wanted this to be about something, and it's nice that it's, people are seeing it as more than an action story in that way. So that made my whole day.
Yes, exactly. Because it's so vulnerable, isn't it? To put your work out into the world, to sit at home. I mean, writers are solitary creatures. We're sitting at home. We're typing every day. Our little fingers are going over the keyboard, and then we put it out. Here's our baby. Put it out to the world. Like, does anyone like this? Do you like my work that I have, opened a vein for and bled onto the page for you for a year and a half? And when people do, and when it's received in that way, and when it's understood so deeply, it's so gratifying. And if it isn't, it's so devastating. So to have that, amazing. And Taylor, the rave reviews just keep going. Book Page raves that Hairpin Bridge reads like a Stephen King novel and is especially reminiscent of Misery in how the characters shape shift as the narrative progresses, leaving the reader wondering who is more dangerous and, more importantly, which one will prevail. Fabulous review there from Book Page. So let's get into how you did that. How did you do that?
I mean, I really like kind of cat and mouse thrillers. That's always been kind of a big part of what I like. What I like about thrillers, and the kinds of thrillers I like to read. And there were a few, there's a moment, maybe, I don't know if it's quite halfway through Hairpin, maybe about a third of the way through, where we find out something very unexpected about the main character, and that was something I'd always wanted to do in this kind of story, because with cat and mouse thrillers, you kind of have built-in assumptions about what the villain is going to do and what the protagonist is going to do. So it's really fun to kind of play with that power struggle, and I think. It's really important that the villain always seem to have the upper hand and be credible. But at the same time, like, I think it is really, really helpful for suspense to make the protagonist almost as dangerous, or maybe even more dangerous. I think it's really like, instead of having a reactive protagonist who's, just on the run from an unstoppable villain, I think it's really cool to watch two equally smart, skilled in different ways people kind of butt heads. And that was something that I wanted to have fun with Hairpin, whereas with, my past novel, No Exit, it's about a person who is, in a bad situation by chance and then has to think her way out of it. This one is a little more, the protagonist is driving it, and this is a situation that she's created, and this is a situation she's also thought through.
I love that. And I especially love that you have put as your protagonist not just a woman, but a woman of color, an Asian woman in the driver's seat, literally and metaphorically. See what I did there? and you let her, claim her power and go after her power against this police dude. So I loved that dynamic of, someone who seems to be at first disempowered, who seems to not have much power, who seems to, we're kind of worried about her, like, oh no, is Lena going to be okay? Lena's going to be okay.
You got this.
Lena's got this. I would like Lena to remain firmly in my corner. I would not like to face off against Lena. Hi, Marion. Hi, Marion. Hi, Carmen. Hi, Ann. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to have y'all here. So Entertainment Weekly, actually, you know what? I'm going to get to Entertainment Weekly in a second. Publishers Weekly awarded Hairpin Bridge a starred review. That is extremely high praise. And for those of you in the audience, so Publishers Weekly is an industry reviewer. So they just review books. They're one of the top rated reviewers, and what they say is gold. So if they like you, you're in, and if they don't, go in the corner and cry because it's over. Just start weeping, get a box of tissues, see you later. But Publishers Weekly awarded you a freaking starred review, which is amazing, raving that Adams follows his debut, 2019's No Exit, with another dazzling thriller. Taylor Adams is a writer to watch. Congratulations on that amazing praise. What was it like to write a second book after the first one is being turned into a movie? It got such incredible praise. Were you just like, curl up in a little ball, sucking your thumb in the corner and rocking, or were you?
A lot of that, yes.
Yeah, what was that like? Because was it motivating or was it crippling?
I think both. Different because like stress, like fear is a great motivator. Like fear gets me writing, so that's good and helpful. At the same time, I mean, it is also, I was pretty paralyzed for some of that time, and honestly, like the whole process has been scary because No Exit it resonated with readers in ways that honestly I never even knew or expected. I got lucky with a lot of things about No Exit that just really seemed to click. And, I tried to learn the right lessons from it because I didn't want to just try to rewrite like something exactly like No Exit, just with a different coat of paint.
Right.
Because I mean, readers would notice that, and it's just not, wouldn't be a satisfying development. So I really set out to try and do some different things with Hairpin. And I mean, the tone is a little darker. There's not as much dark humor as there was in No Exit. It's a different kind of story. It's a different structure. It's written from multiple voices, whereas No Exit is just kind of a straightforward mystery and a rest stop.
I love that. Yeah. And it's so hard to keep reinventing yourself because what you did the last time worked well. But at the same time, you don't want to just do what you did before. But at the same time, if it ain't fixed, why? If it ain't broken, why fix it? You don't want to go too far from what's working and then crash and burn on that. So that was a risk to take as a writer, as a creative, as an artist. And clearly it is working for you because you got great praise, which is fantastic. Oh my God. I just realized we're out of time. It's time for the lightning round. Okay. Last questions for Taylor. We have 4 minutes left. So any questions that you have for Taylor, get them going in the comments. We have 4 minutes left. Let's do it up right. We're going out in a blaze of glory, fam. A blaze of glory. So Entertainment Weekly raved about your last book as well, as did the Wall Street Journal. I mean, I could just go on and on. Entertainment Weekly said No Exit was the carefully layered drawing room psychology of Agatha Christie, cross-pollinated with the pure squishy terror of Stephen King. I mean, my God, talk about if I could write my own best review, that would be it. That's incredible. I mean, Agatha Christie, Stephen King, just mystery legends here. Do you have a favorite review or a favorite blurb? Tell us.
Favorite blurb. Honestly, I like the last 2 that I've gotten for Hairpin, the Publishers Weekly starred review and then the blurb from Riley Sager. I really liked that Riley Sager had called it unpredictable because predictability is such when you really load a thriller with twists, you can't be predictable. And there was, an element of No Exit, which there's a twist pretty early on that I think a lot of readers called that I didn't want them to call. And so, going into another book, I was like, okay, I really want to try and, I want every surprise to really be an intended surprise.
Right. Oh my, right. Exactly. Which is, sometimes hard to keep that kind of creative energy going, that kind of, excitement going. Okay, the questions are pouring in. Caitlin is saying she will be ordering this book. Caitlin,
I hope you like it.
You're going to love it. Leslie saying, can't wait to read it. Thank you for today, Sarah and Taylor. Leslie, thanks for joining us. Carmen, good question from Carmen. Favorite book you've read in the last year? Taylor, yeah, your books are getting all this praise. What books do you love?
I can name a few that I really, really, really liked because it's hard to narrow it down. Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay is amazing. I got to read Survive the Night by Riley Sager. It is excellent. It's called Getaway by Zoya Stage. I really hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but just amazing thriller. Let's see, what else? Oh, and I read, it's a few years old, but I read November Road semi-recently, and I thought that was a really good, by Lou Berney, really good kind of historical crime drama.
Ooh. Oh, I love that. Carmen, thanks for the fabulous question. And Carmen, your name is just meant for mysteries, Carmen Tanner Slaughter. There's like a perfect mystery thriller there. And thank you for that great question. And thank you for the great answer, Taylor. Anissa is saying she can't wait to read it. Thank you for the chat. Y'all, I just put the link in to buy Taylor's book today, and you can support independent bookstores and shop. And Taylor's on sale, which is the best. But he is not cheap. So he is gold plated. So grab your copy today. I just put the link in the comments. So grab it today. Carmen is saying thank you. And you guys, it looks like we are out of time. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I could not ask to go out on more of a blazing high note than this. Today is my last mystery interview for A Mighty Blaze. I am thrilled that 15 months after I founded this series and 100 interviews later, I am taking the opportunity to partner with the fabulous independent bookstore Murder by the Books. And I am rebranding my series as Mystery and Thriller Mavens. And guess what? Taylor's going to join me over there in 2 weeks. So we're going to ask him even more questions. And I'm going to pry out at least one more secret out of Taylor. Taylor, you've been warned. Get ready.
Sounds
Everybody,
good.
It has been incredible. You're my favorite audience. And I can't wait to see you over there every Tuesday over on my channels and Murder by the Book. Leslie saying, oh, Sarah, so sad to see you go. Leslie, me too. It's been such an incredible journey here for the past 15 months volunteering with this Authors Helping Authors initiative. But I'll be still streaming on my own channels, my own Facebook and YouTube, and Murder by the Books, Facebook and YouTube. And I'm actually really excited to get boots on the ground and support this amazing independent bookstore in such a meaningful way. So join me over there. And I am having a special launch event. Oh, Gail's saying, see you tomorrow night. So special launch event tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, and 5 Pacific on Murder by the Book on my channels and their channels. So come celebrate with us there. All right, everybody, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Happy reading.
Thank you so much.